Hello crafty friends, it's Jess from jesscrafts.com, and today I'm here with the Doodlebug Designs Milk and Cookies 6x6 paper pad. What I normally do is try to make as many cards as I can with a 6x6 paper pad, and I like to share those videos. You guys seem to really like them, but I'm running out of time this season. It's already the 18th of December, and here is this unused pad. So I decided to try to mix it up a little bit, and I am going to show you how to make 10 cards with this paper pad. So to get started, I did cut out the large image. So here is the Santa image that is a 6x6 paper pad, or 6x6 piece of paper. However, I trimmed it down so this way it will fit on a 6x6 or 5.5 by 5.5 card. I'll get the measurements for that one for you later, but I thought, well, this will be a quick card, and so I am going to be making a card with that panel, and that'll be 2 of my cards. And because I think is nice about these pads is there's 2 of each paper, so you can make 2 of the same card, give them to different groups of people, you know, 1 to a friend and 1 to a family member, so they don't know that somebody else got the same card. Or my more preferred thing to do is, you know, make 1 for a friend or family member and then put the other in a box to donate in the future, or to, you know, donate to somebody looking for cards. You know, on Facebook I've seen some people sharing, you know, just people that they know that could use a little pick-me-up, etc., etc. So dividing them that way too. I already took the 6x6 papers that were sentiments and cut-aparts and cut them apart. So I already have those squares ready to go, and I'm going to try to incorporate those into the sketch designs if I can, especially the sentiments, just so that I save time and I don't have to stamp them. I did that earlier in the season when I had some extra time. So here I printed some card sketches. MFT has great card sketches, Mojo Monday, Sunday sketches. These aren't current sketches, but you can look for current sketches and enter into challenges. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through and try to pick some papers, and I also have my Cat Scrappiness cross-stitched rectangles. I recommend any sort, like if you want to make them a little bit fancier, you could of course cut these pattern papers plain, but if you want to add a little touch of something else to it, cutting them with some kind of stitched die. I love my Cat Scrappiness dies because they're a really great price point for the amount that you get. They're squares, rectangles, circles, and ovals, all in the same design, so then I can mix and match them. So with this first sketch here, I don't have exact measurements for it, but I see that there's the card base A2. Then there is a sort of big rectangle. This one I know I'm going to bring out a card base here to kind of get an idea. That looks to me a little bit bigger. So then I'm just going to go one size down and think, well, you know, that could fit out pretty well, and this could be that one, or I could possibly even go a little bit smaller. I could do the tiniest rectangle I have. However, I feel like that's a little small. So I'm thinking for this design, I will cut this panel straight. Hopefully it's not out of camera. I'll cut the very biggest back panel just, you know, straight, and then I will cut 2 smaller cross-stitched panels with these 2 dies. So now I want to pick out some pattern papers that will work well for that. The nice thing is I know this piece I'll be able to pick just 1 pattern paper and get 2 of it. I'm going to want to pick something for this top panel. I'm going to want to pick something that's not too busy, because that's where my sentiment is going to go. That's maybe where an image is going to go, a sticker, or one of these guys. Although I'm looking at this and these guys are about the same size as that, so maybe I would just even offset, like this 2x2 could be in place of the heart. I'm not taking the sketch super literal. So this could be in place of the heart on the sketch. That might be a good idea to kind of pick those things out. I'm going to spare you watching me cut everything, of course. but I just wanted to kind of talk through this process because I felt like this might be another way of doing these videos that's helpful to you. So if I go with the Christmas tree, let me find pattern papers that match up well with the Christmas tree. I can go with something a little bit busier for this background piece, or I can go with something simple. But notice how for this little piece, if I pick something busy, it's going to really clash with the Christmas tree. So maybe I want to pick that pattern first. What's nice is you have the back sides, of course, so you can just kind of hold it up to both. Now I'm thinking maybe since I'm going to do a Christmas tree, I'll use this as one of the other papers, maybe for the middle piece, although this is going to hang over the middle and center piece, so this will have to be my background, and I'll need two relatively simple pieces. That's a little bit more simple because it's monochromatic, but the pink on pink, not loving it. I could always go with the red. That's a really simple one, kind of a no-brainer there, but sometimes I like to save the ones that I'm like, that red's going to work for anything, or that green is going to work for anything. I want to save that till I'm like running out of choices. So this blue looks relatively simple. I'll probably take that one. And then I want another relatively simple one. And I think actually I'll go with these gingerbread guys, because even though there's a lot going on with them, it is monochromatic, so it doesn't actually come off as busy. And so here is my collection of papers for that card. So I'm going to be able to put this aside and do some die cutting and come back and talk about it. But so now I'm ready to go to, I could go on to the next card sketch and just kind of pick out papers for that. However, I might wind up with scraps from the first card. So my process is going to be to make the two of these, or as many as I can of this, and then move on to the next card. So as I got to cutting up my paper and die cutting, I realized that if I used both sheets of the Christmas paper, the Christmas tree paper, the gingerbread paper, and the snowflake paper, if I use both sheets, I could actually make 4 cards. So that's what I decided to do, and I wanted to kind of share different ways that you could mix it up if you didn't want 4 of exactly the same. Now, they actually won't be exactly the same because there's only 2 of that 2" by 2" little Christmas tree guy that went on the first card. So here's the first one, and there's only 2 of him. So when I make the second card, or a second set of cards, I'm going to have to use a different 2 by 2 image. Earlier you saw that there was that little cake image. There's also a 2 by 2 milk and cookies image, which could go well, especially considering there's the gingerbread guy. So thoughts about how to mix it up if you didn't want them to be too similar would be to turn over the tree paper and use the green side, or to turn over any of these. Now I would turn them over before you die cut them. However, with this particular cross stitch design, I don't think it's actually as important to turn them over. Now the gingerbread men are going to be hard to turn over because they have these guys on the back, so I probably wouldn't use them that way. But you could turn over this and then pair it with the milk and cookies image if that's what you like. Now I'd probably go with the green in that case, just because you're introducing another new busy pattern. And as I mentioned before, I wanted to kind of talk about pattern mixing if I was going to share this video, just because I think that that is something that people have a little bit of a hard time with sometimes. So what my thoughts on it are. So that would be my other idea for another card. So you could do this one, and this one here, I would maybe put the Hello Sugar. And what's nice about this is, other than the gingerbread men, this isn't very Christmassy, and so you could possibly save this for another time, or go in and get a non-gingerbread paper. And I might even do that because honestly, this is, a good card design, and I already had one for these little guys. So I can go in and do a second set of this. My design for the little cake would be to, again, I could use the tree background, or I could flip it over. So let's look at it flipped over. I'm not going to glue all this stuff for you guys. I just kind of wanted to like show you how once you have some pattern paper cut up and a sketch, you can really just go for it. So I'll grab the gingerbread guy and a snowflake pattern. Now I think the snowflake works better with the cake. I think the milk and cookies is a little too busy, and as you can see, in order to get that many snowflakes, some of the milk and cookies are facing the other way. So if you do decide to turn it over, keep that in mind, because directionality matters sometimes. So I would go with the snowflakes to keep it simple, and that does bring it back more into the wintry realm. But I like that this one could be I think I'm going to turn it into a Valentine's card so that I could donate it coming up in one of those drives. And so then here I can put the Happy Holidays, because there's that little bit of holly decorating the top of the cake. And so that would be my second card. Oh, sorry, my third card, because there's 3 different thoughts here. So at this point, I've actually used up quite a bit of paper because I have 6 cards. I decided to turn this into more of a Valentine-y version. There's really nothing very Christmassy about it. I pulled in the heart paper from the paper pad. I only used one of them because I only needed to cut a 3" by 5 1/4" piece. So I was able to get much more out of it. So I took this piece. I cut it 5 1/4 by 3. That's what I always did for that background piece. And then I picked one of those red and green pieces that I said, you know, I don't like to use those right away because they go with everything. But I thought, well, if I'm going Valentine's Day, I'll use one of these. And that allowed me to cut these 2 rectangles. And then the milk and cookies I already had from that snowflake paper, it's the reverse side. So got these 2, these 2, these 2. They're all a touch different, but the same design. 6 quick cards out of the paper pad, the details. Now I have some scraps, and I like to kind of take stock of my scraps. I have some really big chunks that were created by, you know, cutting down the paper, and then what I die cut out of. So you can kind of get a feel like the gingerbread man paper, for instance. This was the whole sheet of paper. I cut this strip off to make it easier to go through my die cut machine, cut 2 pieces out of it. Now, of course, if you put it right through your die cut, you might be able to save a little bit more of it, is what it is. I'm not too concerned. I'm ready to kind of toss those scraps while keeping a stock of, or keeping, you know, aware of the different scrap sizes that I now have and can possibly use to go forward with one of those other sketches. So I don't think I'm going to get to all 4 sketches, to be honest with you. I think, and then these are just completely trash. Just because I kind of got on a roll with this particular sketch, and I'm kind of a fan of that personally. Like, I don't need to reinvent the wheel every time I work with a 6x6 paper pad. I just kind of want to use my supplies and enjoy them and make some cards that I will like giving away and I feel happy with and proud of. So, I'm going to just pull this off to make it easier to sit on my desk. Looking at the next couple of sketches, looking at the supplies that I have. I really like Santa here. He's super cute. And I'm thinking this sketch might be the most appropriate for Santa. This is a little bit more of a wider rectangle. This is narrower, but I think I can make it work. They also have a background paper with a small border there. I'm not sure I want that because that means using up more of my pattern paper. I'm thinking I could just go with a white background, again, pretty similar to this, honestly, or I could go with some colored cardstock. I personally just have white card bases. I don't buy a lot of non-white card bases, and that's just because it's more expensive. Honestly, I can get a big old pack of that 110-pound Recollections cardstock from Michael's, and it just works. I can get a lot out of it. So I don't know. I think that that's just my thing. I like to spend more on papers and stamps and such. Now, I could go with the 3-inch wide like I did here, and it doesn't leave much of the white. So I think that that's probably a good amount. It's pretty similar. And then I need a strip. And here's where I think my scraps might be able to come in, but I'm not quite sure. So I'll use Santa paper for the background. I think that when you go, like, because this Santa face is the same as this Santa face, it doesn't actually come off as busy as it might if they didn't match. Like, sometimes being matchy makes it less busy in my experience. So looking at my scraps, my scrap that would most work for that is, unfortunately, my gingerbread people. And the only thing with the gingerbread dude is he's facing the wrong way. And the back of the gingerbread guy is this pattern, which is super cute if you're making an advent calendar, not so much for my purposes. Now, I did have this single red strip because I cut those stitched rectangles only for the Hello Sugar card. But I really do like the red. I like the fact that it means you're not really introducing a lot of other colors. And so I may just kind of pull off another strip of red knowing that I can make some stitched rectangles with the leftover. So I might go with that. And then I have this circle area, which I don't know. Maybe I just want to exclude it from the sketch because I do have this blue, which I could cut a cross stitch circle out of. But I think maybe I just kind of want to let Santa speak for himself here, and that busy paper, just kind of enjoy the busyness of it. So I'm going to get to cutting and see where I am. So I went ahead with Santa Claus, and I decided that he needed a little bit of a border since I took out that circle. I'm not much of a sketch purist. Like, I don't feel like I have to follow the sketch exactly. I cut out that background paper, I cut out that circle, but I still got my idea from the sketch. And I just felt like the white border gave him a pop. And as I mentioned before, I'm not one to buy a lot of colored cardstock, although I know you can get some of the like cheaper stuff at Michael's or wherever, like a hobby store for layering. I don't know, I don't tend to buy it very often, and then you have to worry about the reds perfectly matching. So I just went with the white border there. And I was thinking, I have this December 25th as well, and it's kind of a similar shape, but I'd have to turn the sketch on its side. But that's perfect because the gingerbread men, whose the stripe is the same, this banner piece, he is facing that way, so I can make it work. However, I found that if I butt this up, so I picked out a holly paper from the collection. If I do this, I don't really like loving this white space down here the way I like it on the side of the card. So I thought about pulling it all the way down. Then again, that feels like too much green. So I'm gonna just pull the whole thing and leave a wide border on the top and bottom. That's sort of my way of compromising around it. Again, adjusting the sketch a bit. I think that you could again go with the white border if you like. However, because this card is a little less matchy-matchy, I think I like it the way it is there. I'm going to keep it simple. Obviously, you could go back and embellish these a lot, like Nuvo drops, crystals, brads, strips of ribbon, things like that would add to it a lot, but it's December 18th, and I'm trying to make cards. Like, I'm trying to get some cards done. So if you're doing this at a different time of year, maybe you don't want to do, maybe you want to take the time and add a few of those. I could also try to pull in a sentiment, but again, this, like, December 25th is kind of a sentiment. Santa Claus is coming to town, kind of a sentiment, and you don't need to put Merry Christmas or Happy Holidays on the front of your card. It's going to say it on the inside. So that's going to be another 2 cards besides the Santa Claus. So I think we're actually already up to 10 cards. I made 6 with the first sketch and then 4 with the second sketch. But I want to see, I still have some paper left, and I'm going to pull that to the side, glue it up later. But what could I do with some of these sketches? Now, looking at this sketch here, This is meant for a tall and skinny card. I'm not doing a tall and skinny card. I like to keep it A2. I like to keep it simple. I have left some pretty busy papers. I have more Santa. I have more of this. These are single sheets. So I probably want to kind of consider that, because this one here calls for a background paper, and in this instance I think that's more important, just because it's going to be a lot of white space if I leave it white. You know, you totally could though, because white is a perfect Christmas color, and there's going to be some stuff going on top. I don't know that I want to leave it white. I think I want to go with the pattern paper background and use some lesser patterny papers to tone it down with these stripes. What's nice is the back of Santa is this chimney or brick pattern. See, I said chimney wrong. Anyway, you could totally use this as a toned down stripe, and this green would be a great toned down stripe. These guys, not so much. I usually don't find myself using these stripes. They don't really work for me. They're not, I don't know, just something about them isn't so much my style. So I'm thinking go with a busy paper, tone it down. And maybe a busy paper with a simple background would help, because when I cut the A2 size card, I'm going to be left with a 2-inch strip, which could then be one of the strips. So I like this one a lot. I want to make sure that I use it. I like the teal background. Ooh, I have one sheet of the heart too. That's something to consider. And this chunk of red. These are all like single pieces left. So I want to consider that. But if I'm going to make this card design, I'm going to want to get 2 out of it. So now all I have left in my paper pad is the Merry Christmas and the baking one. Put those to the side so that I have some options for later, and then I'm going to use these 2 pieces plus scraps. So I know I can get a 2-inch strip out of the back, and that could either be one of these stripes or this one. I need something to cut the circle out of. So I need to make sure that the circle is going to be able to fit on 2 of these. I could also go, I have this piece, I could go with a square instead of a circle, but I feel like the circle actually is really interesting here. And I have the mini icon stickers. So this could be a chance to use the mini icons. And I want my circle to be wider than this strip for sure. So let's see. Maybe the circle's out of the red so that I can put characters on them really easily. I think that's probably the best call. And then another simple paper for the stripe. I don't really have many scraps left. I've been trying to use my scraps all along, so I haven't had any trouble with that. And I personally prefer that method of using the scraps all along, although it's kind of putting me in a bind right now. Maybe the red bricks with the red on top for the across stripe, and one of the banners, one of the long banners is gonna be this. So maybe a new color would be nicer. I don't probably want to go with the red again. That's super busy. It's maybe gonna have to be the green holly. Although the green holly on top of that is quite busy. You could probably make it work with everything else that's toning it down. Or I could make the green strip be the across strip so that it won't show as much. It'll be a smaller chunk. So I think that's what I'll do. All right, gonna go cut up some papers. So I thought I was going to follow the sketch, and I was going to put this green strip across, thinking, oh, that was the best choice I had. But to me, this is looking like way too busy. I'm not liking it. I'm not liking the other side. I don't want to go to cut up more paper because I think that this adjustment works. It's probably because here I am trying to turn a tall, skinny card into a regular A2 size card that's squatter, let's say. So, you know, sometimes, especially, you know, working with sketches, you're going to have to or want to make some adjustments. And I'm okay with that. I've been working for sketches a long time. When I first started card making, I used to use sketches all the time. I loved participating in sketch challenges, and you know, once you use sketches for a while, I feel like you start to kind of like incorporate those designs naturally into what you're doing and using those things that you originally got as a sketch to, you know, create. You just start thinking, oh, I could put a banner here like that one sketch I did, or something like that. So now I'm going to work with the icon stickers. I just opened this package, like literally, and I'm noticing these are a little bit thicker than the last couple. The last couple of mini icon stickers have been really, really thin, so much so that you could see this red paper through them, but these are a little bit thicker. They're not cardstock by any means. They're not like the thicker one, like the large icon stickers, but they are a little bit nicer, and so I think that that is definitely worth noting. I'm happy to see that improved quality with them. I mean, I liked them before anyway, but to me, that just kind of adds a little gold star for them. So just trying to build a little scene. It also makes it easier to stack them, because before you could see one sticker through the other. So the white of Santa's beard and all that, you'd be able to see the background through it. I'm very, very pleased with that upgrade in quality. And I just want to create a little scene. So maybe I have the little puppy there with Santa on. So 2 simple little scenes. Now, because I had some trouble with that sketch, I think maybe I want to move away from it and spare myself the difficulty and just try to do maybe something with this one last sketch here. Large background piece again. So maybe I would rather do the brown rather than something super busy, because that's kind of where I hit a stumbling block last time. The Merry Christmases could work too, although, oh, and the candy cane, pink. Then I need to find this size. I felt like earlier this cross-stitched rectangle that I was using was about right compared to the size of a card. You know, when you face it this way. So I think that's probably the solution there. I've cut these down too small. That's a bummer, but maybe I can incorporate the hearts. It's the back of the hearts. Well, the hearts on the pink will probably work. So that could be that strip. And then this strip is making me think of these that I had originally cut off of here. It's like a super, super skinny strip. So I can get started with kind of chopping all that up and seeing if I can make one last set of cards. And I'm wondering, so I can probably, I know for sure that I get 3 of the hearts out of one sheet, but then one of them will be this way. So if I want to try to create 2 of this design, I'm gonna have to get creative and find some other things, or maybe turn the sketch. So we'll see how that goes. All right. So I cut the candy cane paper and the hearts out of the stitching, and at this point, I honestly have no concept of how long, when I put all these pieces of video together, this particular video is going to be. So I'm going to try to speed through the last bit, because I'm at the point where like I'm basically done with the paper pad, even though that really wasn't my intention. So with that in mind, I'm going to kind of just try to quickly talk about what I would do to finish it up. So I like the idea. I found this little piece of blue snowflake scrap, it allows me to stick a sticker down with it, and then you take the cake sentiment, and I think that that could make it into like a Christmas thank you card, since it does have a Christmas theme, and I could just find another, you know, Christmas cake sticker and make the same card twice. So I use that sketch, but I incorporate this other little extra piece of blue. Then, as I mentioned before, I was just going to put those big panels on 5.5 by 5.5 inch square paper, or cards. So it's an 11-inch long, so you can get it from a standard 8.5 by 11 piece of cardstock, fold it in half. That's why I prefer that to like a 6 by 6, because then you need 12 by 12 cardstock. I don't really keep that on hand. So that's what I made with these two. I'm probably going to go in with some gems or some glossy accents or Nouveau drops, and put the Nouveau drops, glossy accents, or gems over the ornaments on the Christmas tree, the wreath, maybe the little holly berries, add those details in. And then as I mentioned before, I had this paper left in the 6 by 6 size. So I chopped it down and started figuring out how to use up other scraps. I had the holly scraps, and this was the Santa paper, and it created 2 blocks of chimney. A lot of times I will cut the banner and adhere it on, then turn it over to chop it off, because I'm never quite sure how long I want the banner to be. So rather than trying to guesstimate and cut it with my paper trimmer, I just kind of adhere it down and then and try this method instead. Now again, because this red is a semi-solid, I think I can come in and build a little scene with the stickers, but I might kind of fuss with that for a while. So to keep it quick, I'm gonna, again, just put that to the side. I mentioned earlier that I was using the cross-stitched rectangles, and I used the circle. They're from Cat Scrappiness. I wanted to let you know, if you were interested, that Cat Scrappiness also has the Milk and Cookies paper pad. So if you haven't yet picked it up and you want to, pick it up for next year's crafting, they have, all the materials pretty much that I've used today. Now I have these 2-inch strips of both the candy cane paper and this brown paper, because they were made after cutting those backgrounds. So these are 2 inches by 6 inches. I can tape 2 of them together and then take another random scrap and adhere it over them. So then it looks like one continuous piece of card, or, a pattern paper there, but it's not. And I talked about that many times. Sorry about that. Many times when doing these kind of videos, that I would take the 2-inch strips and tape them together. So I just wanted to re-emphasize and show you again what that looks like. And so you can center it or you can offset it. I chose to offset it just because I think it will add some interest to the finished card. I'm not quite sure how I'll finish these off. I'm thinking that maybe I will add like a white cardstock square or cross-stitched or something. I'm just gonna go at it with my scraps. And all the finished cards will be over on my blog. I'm gonna share a blog post with a picture of every card. If they may double the card, probably only one picture, but that way you can kind of see how they all turned out. I hope this video doesn't turn out massively long. Let me know what you thought, if me talking through the process was more helpful rather than maybe some of the rambling voiceovers. I do know it's probably going to be longer. I just wanted to try something different. I wanted to get it out to you quickly. This is a quicker way. I am, as I said, put a blog post up. I'll link that in the video description. I'll link some of the supplies in the video description. But as you can see, I really did not use very much at all. It was just kind of the paper pad and some dies and adhesive and white cardstock. I tried not to add too much just because I kind of like that you can create cards with such simple supplies, but then you could go ahead and add all kinds of embellishments and glitter if that's what you're into as well. And yeah, so if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you're interested in more crafting tutorials, you want to check out some other Doodlebug tutorials that were perhaps done a little bit differently, be sure to subscribe to my channel. And I will see you in a future video. Thank you. Bye.